So today I want to talk a little about how much it costs to get into film photography and why I think as a beginner you should start developing your own film. So I personally love shooting film because I think it's a lot more hands-on approach. It's definitely more of a meticulous process, and I think there's a sort of quality about film that you can't recreate with digital. And I think many other film shooters can attest to that. With digital cameras, there are a lot more factors to consider, such as the camera's body sensor, the firmware, how many megapixels it has, whether it can shoot RAW. And what you're going to notice is that most of these cameras don't last more than a decade or two, whether it be faulty electronics or the fact that there's going to be newer, better cameras that's coming out. So this here is my beloved Leica M2 with a 50mm Summicron, and this camera has been around for almost 60 years and it still works just as good as the day that it was made. So the factors that affect the quality of your photos in a film camera are much more simpler. You have your lens, which affects the sharpness as well as the contrast of your photos. You have the film, which affects the colors, the tones, and also the light sensitivity. And lastly, you have your camera body. Now, this is a very common misconception, but the camera body does not affect, oops, I just took a photo. The camera does not affect the image quality of your photos. You can have a $50 camera or a $1,000 camera body, and if you use the same lenses and the same film, you're gonna get the same quality images. The body is just a means to expose light from the lens to the film, and what you might be paying for more in these expensive bodies are how dependable it is, how brighter the viewfinder is, whether it has a camera meter or not. And these are all things that do affect the overall quality and making sure that you get the shots that you want. So now that you've taken your photos, you have to now develop your film and scan it. And here are 3 of the most common ways that you can go about it. The first option is to drop it off at a store, whether it be a Walmart or a CVS. This takes about 1 to 2 weeks, and you pick up your prints as well as a CD of all your scans. The second option is that you can ship it online to a store such as Fromex, and you can print a prepaid label to send to them. And this usually takes about 3 to 7 days, and they'll send you your negatives, but you would have to scan the negatives on your own. The last option is that you can develop and scan your film all at home. Now, if I develop earlier in the day, I can probably get the scans out by that very night, so it takes about 1 day. Now, just keep in mind that these are not the exact figures. The prices of some of these items and the cost of film have changed since I first made this chart, but you can use the same formula to calculate your costs. Okay, so I'm actually going to go backwards with this, starting from the home developing to online to CVS, since it's going to be a lot easier to explain the tables and how they all relate. So the first chart shows you all the equipment that you need in order to start developing. You can get all these on eBay or Amazon, and I list the prices of how much each item costs for both new or if you can find a cheaper option for it. I'm putting the Epson V550 negative scanner on here since it is the most popular negative scanner, and it's going to be sufficient for you to start with. If you were to purchase all of these items, your startup cost will be around $260 new. The C41 chemical kit costs around $30. Now, they normally recommend one kit to be used for a max of 12 rolls, but in all honesty, I've probably ran through about 30 to 40 rolls until I started noticing some off colors. So I'm gonna say, as a safe average, 20 rolls per C41 kit, which equates to about $1.50 to process 1 roll. Now, if you look at the second chart, the first column shows the cost of developing and scanning a single roll, and the second column is with the cost of film added. So I've chosen $6 as a current baseline for the cost of a standard roll of film that takes 36 exposures. Examples would be Kodak Ultramax 400 or Fuji Superior 400 that are both popular films that you can buy anywhere or online. So the second method is to send out your film to an online store, receive the negatives, and then scan it yourself at home. So this would require a startup cost of $160 just for the Epson scanner, and it costs about $6 a roll, but they do charge $6 for return shipping. So I put in the assumption that you'd be shipping off 2 rolls at a time, and that would reduce the cost to $9 a roll, and with a $6 per film, it would come to about $15 a roll. The last method is that you can drop it off at a store like CVS or a Walmart. On average, they charge about $18 for a roll of 36 exposure film, and with the film cost included, you're paying about $24 for each roll. So the pros of doing this is that it takes no initial startup costs, and they also give you your prints and also a CD of all your scans. The definite con is that it is the most expensive method by far in the long run. So with all the information that I listed, I created a table of how much each method costs for multiple rolls, going from 1 to 100 rolls, to show you how much everything is going to cost you in the long run. If you look at the table, you'll see that developing online and at home has a much higher startup cost for the first few rolls, as opposed to just the CVS option that has no big startup cost. However, as you shoot and develop more rolls, you'll see around the 17-18 roll mark that all three lines meet, and home developing goes from the most expensive to the least expensive, and by 100 rolls, it's less than half the cost of dropping it off at a store. In conclusion, my suggestion for somebody that's getting into film photography is to develop everything and scan it yourself at home. The downside to this is that when you're starting, there are a lot more room for error, so that if you mess one thing up, then you might ruin your entire roll of film. However, if you get enough practice in, it just becomes second nature, and then you can start reaping the rewards of being able to process film for cheap. If you decided that this isn't something that you want to do, you can always resell your equipment, so it's really not that big of an investment as people might think. So here is my suggestion if you're trying to look for a film camera. Get one that has been tested with film so that you know the pictures come out well and that there are no light leaks. And also make sure to get a all mechanical camera. And by all mechanical, I mean that some cameras do require a battery for a light meter, but there are also cameras that don't work unless you have a battery. So this is my Canonet QL17 camera. A lot of people recommend this camera, but I do not personally, as a first-time camera, just because this requires a specific battery that's hard to find and is expensive. And there's just been so many times where I missed out on some great photo opportunities because the batteries died. But I definitely do recommend, if you're just starting off, to find a camera that has a light meter. It's definitely not necessary, because now you can download light meters on your phone for free, and it works just the same. Another recommendation that I have is to get 400 speed film. 200 or 100 is just too dark for indoor shots, so 400 is good medium for both indoor and outdoor shots. Also for film, I definitely recommend that you use non-expired film. Expired film is just going to be grainy, the colors are going to be off, and you're just not going to be happy with your first photos. So I hope this video was helpful. My goal with making this was to spark some sort of interest in people wanting to get into shooting film. There's plenty of YouTube videos online that you can check out. I'll link some below for you guys to get started. Thanks.